Tired of pushy recruiters sending you LinkedIn requests for jobs you have no interest in? Tired of blasting out resumes into the dark? If so, you should check out Hired.com. Hired.com flips job searching on its head by having top employers like Facebook come to you after you fill out one simple application. You also get your own job coach to help you on your next job search. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you at least fill out the application. Just go to Hired.com/simple programmer, and when you get hired with Hired, you'll get double the normal sign-on bonus for using that link. Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. And today I got an interview, and I think that you guys will find this one pretty interesting. I always love to hear from people that have had success, that have turned their life around and have been able to make changes in their life. That's the most inspiring thing for me. You know, that's something that is really near and dear to my heart, because that's really why I do what I do here at Simple Programmer, at least nowadays. So I've got Sylvester Morgan here, and he is a gentleman who I had some email conversations with back in, I think it was like 2014, and he had been following some of the Simple Programmer content, and I just got an email from him just recently with his own YouTube channel, some videos that he had put together, and a real good success story that I thought I'd share with you all here, just to show you what is possible. I know that you a lot of you have seen what's happened to me over the last 7 years, but there's a lot of people that are it's anyone can do it. So thanks for coming on, Sylvester, and welcome.
Thank you, John. First of all, thank you. It's definitely a pleasure to be able to talk to you. You've definitely played a huge part in my success, so thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to have you here. So maybe you want to start by talking a little bit about, maybe introduce yourself, like who are you? What do you do now? What's and then maybe we'll go back in time and we can talk about where you were in the journey.
So my name is Sylvester Morgan, and I'm currently a business intelligence engineer for Quicken Loans, and do a lot of awesome stuff there. It's an awesome company to work for, and been able to build a successful software development career.
Cool, awesome. And you've got a YouTube channel out there now. I was watching some of your videos, and they're pretty well done. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. So I definitely wanted to reach back out to people. There was a lot of people that were interested after they heard my story, interested in coding and software development. So I wanted to be able to reach out and help those people also the way I've been helped.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, we'll have to put a link. Make sure I'll let Rodrigo. This is a note for you to put a link to the channel, so we get to subscribe. You all should subscribe and check out Sylvester's channel. But what I really want to talk about, what's really interesting to me, I think, is that I look back and looked at the email that you had written in 2014. And quite a difference. I think your life has changed a lot. So tell me what happened. Tell me what was going on at that time, and then what happened. What was going on at that time, and what made you change your life?
So going way back, I grew up in a relatively low income, low education level situation, neighborhood and school district where there wasn't high expectations of success, and I didn't do well in school. It wasn't that I struggled in school, but just did not focus on it. Right. So I graduated with like a 1.8 GPA. And then I spent some time really unsure of what I wanted to do with my life, and just working minimum wage jobs, fast food, unloading trucks and stocking shelves. And during that time, I also met who would be my wife, and we ended up getting engaged. And I knew I wanted to be able to provide for a family, so I needed to do something different. And I kind of always had an interest in software development or in IT and computers in general, but I never actually even imagined being a software developer, because there's a lot of misconceptions that I had about what it takes and what it's like. And so I signed up for some IT and software development classes at a local community college. Just to try to, I wasn't sure at that point there's so much you can do in IT, but it was when I took my first software development class that I knew I wanted to be a software developer. But I wasn't sure what direction to go, whether I wanted to go self-taught or coding boot camp or uh, a university 4-year degree or something like that.
Right.
But but after considering all the options, and my wife and I ended up getting married and had children, and so the best option for me at that point was to go the self-taught route, and also based on some of the research that I had done, I thought it was best to teach myself, and then I could do it. But and then so what I did was I put together, I call it a learning plan. I kind of like went to a bunch of universities and looked at their computer science curriculums, and to see what kind of classes I should take, even though I was studying on my own, to get some kind of outline. And then I started studying through textbooks and online courses. And then I was a friend recommended Pluralsight, so I signed up for Pluralsight, and so I was studying along. It was a slow process, but I faced a lot of discouraging thoughts. Am I smart enough? Do I have the aptitude to do it? Was I too old? That's one of the things I had mentioned in the email.
Oh yeah.
So I found so I found some of your courses on Pluralsight, and then I went to your blog, Simple Programmer, and then I found a YouTube channel, and I ended up purchasing the How to Start a Blog, the free How to Start a Blog course,
Okay.
and then I purchased Soft Skills and one of the other How to Teach Yourself Anything Quickly courses, and so I sent that email because I was struggling with whether I could do it or not. I was 28 years old, as I said in the email, and I was wondering if I was too old to get started.
It seems funny now, right? It's like 28, man. You're like, now, if I could go back, I was so young.
Yeah. So now it's crazy. It's like when I hear someone in their 20s or 30s or 40s saying, "I wish I would have learned this or that." Like you can still learn it. Like you can start when you're 40 and have 10 years of experience doing it by the time you're 50. Like
Exactly.
It seems silly looking back now.
Yep. So that's cool. So yeah, I think a lot of people definitely struggle with it. Like I still get a lot of emails like, am I too old? And it's funny because it comes from people that are in their 20s. That is sometimes even people are like, I didn't start programming when I was 14, so am I too old? Right. And they're like 20 something. And then it comes from people that are in their 40s, and it's really like, I mean, you're really never too old. I mean, I suppose if you're like 80, like then maybe you're a little bit too old. Maybe, I don't know if you have too much of a career ahead of you, but really, I mean, for most people, you're not too old. We just have this perception, I think. So that's cool that you're able to overcome that. And I really like what you did. Like you said that you went to these college courses and you pull. I mean, that's essentially one of the strategies that I recommend in the 10 steps to learn anything quickly. Is basically like, hey, let's go and look at table contents of books, look at courses, put together your own learning plan. And that's like the smart way to do it, to save money, because there's no reason why a college professor has to teach you a thing. Like you can go and you can make your own education today, a la carte, and that's cool. So what happened then? How did that? So you've got you started learning, you started teaching yourself. So what next? How did you get your first job? Well, how did you know you were ready to get your first job programming, and how did that come about?
So I was studying. I was actually working full time and mandatory overtime, so I didn't have much time. And my wife and I were married. We had children. We have 4 children now, and so I had to be really disciplined. Keep a disciplined schedule. Like my wife and I, we don't have a TV. Like,
Yeah.
just we want to spend our time doing other things, more productive things. But so after working full time, working overtime, I would come home, spend time with my wife and children, and then I would spend a couple of hours every evening studying. So I was doing that for a while. But one of the things about going through like a computer science curriculum to see what you should study, I think that I did a lot of the things that are inefficient about
Sure.
going through a computer science program, because you cover a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily need for your first job.
Right.
And And so I was like studying so many different topics. And then it was your advice to specialize. And also another friend who was also self-taught, he also told me, like, you have all the computer science fundamentals and software development fundamentals down, but you need to specialize and focus on something.
Perfect. Yep.
So at that point, I started specializing or focusing on SQL Server and SQL database development, and then on business intelligence development. And so it was also your advice at this time. I was struggling with like imposter syndrome. Like, if I get a job, will I be able to do it?
Right.
And it was your advice to one of your videos. You were talking about trying to get in over your head and not fearing failure or feeling like looking stupid. Like, just try it. And a friend, he came over for dinner. This guy who was self-taught. He had like 15 years experience, and he's like, after dinner one day, he just started asking me interview questions, and he's like, "Dude, you're ready." And I'm like, "I don't think I'm ready."
Yeah.
He's like, "You need to go on dice.com and set up a profile. You need to update your resume and start applying today." And even then, I was still like hesitant, like, okay, I'll do it, but I don't really think I'm ready. I don't know how I'll do in a technical interview. And so I did it. I set up a dice.com, and I was shocked with the response. Like, a lot of companies were interested.
Yeah.
And I ended up going through the interview process with one company that I really liked. And I was shocked throughout the interview process. Also, I took your advice, salary negotiation advice.
Okay.
So
good.
this position, it was a position that I applied for that it was saying it required 3 years experience and like a computer science degree or equivalent. And I had no experience, or actually I like played around with SQL and some other stuff at my current job. I was working a help desk position.
Okay. Yep.
But I applied with a resume that said entry-level business intelligence developer on the title, but it wasn't an entry-level position. It was like a mid-level position. And I used your salary negotiation tips, and it felt really weird on the phone interview when the recruiter asked me what my salary expectations were. And I said, I felt really weird doing this, but I said, I'd rather just focus on seeing if I'm a good fit for the company and seeing if you're a good fit for me. And then I'll need to know more about the job in order to come up with that expectation.
Good. Yeah.
And so we went through the interview process. So there were a couple of phone interviews, and then I had an on-site interview, and I was really nervous. I like crammed a bunch more studying in at that point, and watching a lot of videos on how to interview well and how to show confidence and stuff like that. And going into the interview, I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to look like a complete idiot or if I was going to do really well. And as I was interviewing, I was doing really well, and they were really, there was really positive feedback. And during the technical interview, it was interesting that I took your advice like 2 or 3 months before the interview. I set up my blog.
There you go. Yep.
And the technical interview, one of the architects, he actually was reading my blog before the interview. And so we spent more time during the interview talking about my blog than we did going through like difficult interview questions.
That's awesome. Yep.
So
yeah, I call that the rubber stamp, because they've already decided like that you're technically competent enough. So they just want to discuss, so that it's such an awesome way to get your foot in the door, because you don't have to, they're not testing you at that point. They're having fun because they already know what they need to know. So that's cool.
Yeah. So the recruiter came back in the room and said, the feedback is really positive. I'm sitting there in shock. Like, this is going really well. Like,
yeah.
And, so at that point, we started talking about, it seemed like they were interested, and we started talking about salary. And I told her what my salary expectation was, giving her a number much higher than, it was over double what I was currently making. And her response was, Oh, we can definitely do that.
Oh no! Oops.
Yeah,
should have made her as give the first number. That's all right though. That's all right though. I mean, like, you must have
but it
been
was
thrilled at that point. Just like, yeah, you must have been out of your skin thrilled. So
yeah. So I got the job offer a couple of days later, and after I got the offer, I actually negotiated and came back and got a little bit higher.
oh, good,
Um,
nice,
and then I'm super excited, but I'm also nervous. Like, okay, I got the job now, but can I do it?
right, yeah,
And so again, I started studying, cramming a bunch more studying in, so like I could go in. I thought maybe when I started my first day, they're going to sit down at a computer and make me come up with some complex algorithm or something. And
yeah,
once I got the job, I was shocked again to see like that I was definitely probably ready a long time before I actually applied and stuff. The skills I needed, I had those skills for like a year ago, and it was just mostly learning the particulars of that company. Um, and also most of the developers I worked with, they knew what they knew what they needed to know to do their job, but they were not that interested in spending time outside of work, improving their skills and stuff. So um, I ended up, I kept studying, kept going through Pluralsight courses, and I ended up quickly outgrowing that position. And within a year, a little over a year, I ended up moving on to another company.
yeah. Okay, so I want to recap a few things. You said some really interesting things. I think that I want to make sure that people got, which is that, so if I get this right, you were working a full-time job plus overtime, plus you had a wife, plus you had kids, right? Because people use this as an excuse and they say, oh, I don't have time. But you were spending, I mean, you weren't watching TV, you were spending the time, making the time to study a few hours every night. So you were doing all that stuff and still studying, right?
Yeah, and another thing, I would use the time commuting to and from work to listen to audiobooks and podcasts. I
Yep.
would keep a book a book or two in my backpack, so that if I had a spare moment, I could learn something new. I would do that on lunchtime during my other job. So yeah, it's not an excuse. Um, I had a blog posting about like writing out your schedule and um, really evaluating what you're spending your time on, because you probably have a lot more time than you think you do, for
Yep.
those who do use that excuse.
And then the other thing that I would say too is, and so um, what was I going to say about this? I forgot what, but so, well, how long did this process take, right? In order for you to do this, like how long did you spend learning the time when you said, okay, I'm going to start learning software development and make my learning plan versus the time when you first interviewed for that first job?
So it's hard to put a time on it because I took my first class back in 2011.
Hmm.
What that got me interested in programming, but I didn't like the instructors were not really good, and there's a lot of reasons why I chose not to continue going the formal education route. But it was hard because there were a lot of things that happened in my life. There were some big things that happened in my family's life that I had to completely put everything on hold for like a year, and then pick stuff up back slowly. So it's hard, but I'd say like if you can condense it down to the time that I was actually focusing, it was probably like 6 months to a year of studying.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's not a huge amount, right? I mean, that's like I think sometimes people are like, oh, it's going to take me forever, and that's why they think they're maybe too old. It's like I don't have 4 years. Well, yeah, you go to college for 4 years, right, and you're still not prepared. but on your own,
Right.
teaching yourself, you could teach yourself. You got to figure out what you need to know. I remember the other point I was going to say too, which was that not only were you doing the studying, but at least some of the time you started a blog up and you're writing blog posts. So like there's definitely, I mean, you were hustling for sure, but that's that's the reward goes to the person who hustles. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing was I did a lot of stuff that was inefficient. Like before I got your advice of how to learn things quickly, I would like study a textbook like C# how to program, and just go through textbook cover to cover,
All right. Yeah.
which was really inefficient. Like instead of you know getting the basics and then start doing stuff and practicing. So there's a lot I could have done to do it even a shorter time period.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I like the idea too that like you dove in over your head. I mean, I think that's one of the things that people are so uncomfortable doing. Like they think they're not ready. And it's like, I mean, if you go to an interview and you bomb the interview, so what? I mean, you learn something and then you learn what you're missing and you keep on going. But even, I thought it was interesting that you said like, when you got there, you realized that you were ready a while ago. You were maybe 6 months ago for that. So that's pretty
Yeah,
cool too.
yeah, about getting in over your head. I tell my wife the last 4 jobs that I've had, I felt before I applied and got the job, I felt like I was not qualified for the job at all, like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Even the help desk position, it was requiring like 2 years of high volume call center experience and a bunch of other technical experience that I didn't have, but I got the job and I was able to do it. I learned on the job. And then the last 3 positions, the same thing. Looking at the job description, I was unsure if I was qualified, and then I get the job and realize I'm like excelling and doing really well in the job. And I think that also a good point about job postings being misleading, like requiring all these different skills, and we're just once you get the job, like there's been jobs that they would post a job for another team member doing the same thing, and my coworkers and I would be laughing like we're not even qualified for this job.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, that's so good that you ignored the requirements, the experience, and it's funny. So many people are like so rule following, like, and it's like no, this isn't how the world works. Like, they're going to come up with the job description, but that doesn't mean anything. They're going to ultimately hire the person that they feel is qualified and that they like. And so that's cool, and that's cool how the blog, really. I emphasize this so much. I'm glad to hear that it worked for you because people don't believe me that someone will Google your name, and if they find your blog and they're interviewing you, they're going to read your blog. They're absolutely going to, and that's your interview right there because they might sit and read your blog for a couple hours, and they're going to learn more about you than they're going to learn in like a 30-minute technical interview.
Yeah, like the advice on how to market yourself. Even though this position, the first position I got was like it wanted 3 years experience and computer science degree, but I was able to prove like that I'm passionate about it, that I had been studying computer science principles and software development principles, that I was passionate about it, that I was experimenting and practicing on that stuff at my other company, and I was like setting up my own environments at home and learning that stuff. Like, so really like being able to convince them that I basically had the knowledge that they were looking for, and definitely the passion that would take me even further than that.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me what happened after that then. So that was the first job, and that's one of those things again. Everyone is so afraid. How do I get that first job? But you did it. You went in because you got in over your head, or what you felt was over your head, and then you get there and you find out that actually I know more than most of these guys, because that's what happens. Or I could do this job. What happened after that? After that job?
So I was working that job, and we started. They started expecting a lot of hours. They expected us to work a lot of hours. It was some poor management, and I had saw your course about like whether you should be committed to a company, like the idea of um, being at a company for a lifetime now is. I think people think of it more like now as like contract work. Like it's nothing personal. It's a business. If they don't need you anymore, they're not going to keep you. So I started talking. I actually started negotiating my salary to go even higher. I was picking up a lot more responsibility and
Right.
doing a lot more to help the company save money and do things more efficiently. And so I negotiated my salary, or I tried to, and the manager said he could, try to figure something out over the next year, and that there was nothing he could do at the time, and I was trying to take on more responsibility, and so I started getting interested. That was a SQL server developer, like database position, and I really wanted to do more business intelligence. So I just started looking around, and that, again, like once you get that first job, then I think the doors are like wide open. Like so many opportunities came up after that, and I got contacted by a lot of recruiters, and then there was a company, there was this position with Quicken Loans for a business intelligence engineer position. And I applied for it again, feeling like I was not sure if I could do it, but I was confident that whatever it is I needed to do, I could learn it quickly and pick it up. And so I did an interview with this company. It was a panel interview with like 7 people, on-site interview. And again, did really well during that interview, and got another huge jump, another step up, and also a huge increase in salary again.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah, that's great. I mean, good on you, Sylvester, for really, doing what a lot of people are afraid to do, and taking those steps. That's awesome. I just, congratulations on doing this. I definitely have a lot of respect for you, for, so many people talk, and they don't actually do, and they don't actually change their lives, but it's certainly possible. So cool. So that sounds awesome. What does life look like now? How has your life changed now that you, from going from the help desk and not sure if you could become a programmer to now? I mean, now you're out there helping other people. I think that's pretty cool. So tell me about that.
So yeah, so I wanted to. Life is really good right now. We're obviously. My wife, I don't have any debt. We purchased like a starter home a few years ago, and so we're living well within our means. We're making like 4 times what our expenses are. So we're going to be looking into ways to watch your videos on investing in real estate. Cool. And getting some rental properties and stuff like that. So we're just trying to kind of like strategize through all of that right now. And also, I started the YouTube channel and my website to kind of like, I think there are some people doing this, but I think it's good to have many different perspectives. People can be helped by it. And so I'm just trying to reach out and kind of like comfort people in the same situation and give guidance to people who might be interested in doing the same thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that, and I like the idea that you're gonna do the investing now that you've got the money to be able to do that, and you're living below your means. So that's another thing that I have to commend you on too, is because a lot of people they get this better job, they're making a lot more money, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, I need to go buy a Tesla, and I need to go like buy this expensive house, and then they're making more money, but they're in the same place. Whereas you've got an opportunity, if your living expenses are only 1/4 of your income, you can take that money, invest that money, and build some passive income, build some financial independence, which is awesome.
Yeah, so it's funny because our neighbors definitely probably don't know what I'm making with the house we live in, and we didn't want to like triple, quadruple my income, and then quadruple our expenses also, and then be stuck in the same situation like we were still struggling financially. And right. Then taking some of the Robert Kiyosaki's advice about instead of buying assets or buying liabilities, buy assets first and then use the income from those to pay for liabilities. So maybe like purchasing some rental properties and then using the income from that to purchase a larger home for our family and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yep. Awesome. Perfect. So, one thing I want to ask, before we wrap up here again, because I think your story, I really like it a lot, because I get your story echoes so much of the questions that I get. So many people that are so unsure. They have the same doubts. They think they're too old. They think that it's too hard. They're not sure what to do. Should they go to university? Should they do a coding camp? Can they teach themselves? How do they teach themselves? And how do they get their first job? So they're afraid of all of these things. What would you say to that person? Or what would you say, better question, I think maybe, is what would you say to yourself, knowing what you know now, back then when you had those questions?
I would say, don't fear failure. Just get started. Don't just get started. Just start learning something. Even if you do have an excuse, if you think you have an excuse that you don't have time, if you spend like 20 or 30 minutes a day learning something new, it's going to pay off. Just keep pushing forward and studying and learning and doing something and adjusting as you go. And for me, it was like a snowball effect of once I started like improving and doing things. It was like a snowball effect. Like I'll learn new things that I needed to improve on, identify new like habits that I need to develop, habits that I need to stop. And so just like finding like improving every area of life. Like there's so many principles of success that I've learned that go beyond success in software development. Like I have the confidence now that if there was anything I was interested in, I could learn it and
Yep.
I could pick it up. And having the like principles and habits in place to never quit when things get hard, to keep pushing through. Like that's what differentiates those who succeed and those who don't. It's not like some kind of like being born a genius or something.
Right.
So just to not fear failure, what like just keep pushing forward and do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Great advice. Appreciate it, man. And again, I just have to congratulate you. I'm happy. I'm so happy for you because it's so awesome that you've been able to do this and you've been able to do this for your family as well. So so appreciate you taking the time. And like I said, if you guys listening, watching, haven't checked out Sylvester's YouTube channel, go check that out. He's doing some good videos and he's given back. One of the things that I really appreciate as well is to give back, to share the knowledge, because that's how this spreads and how people get this. It's a good message that you can do it. I think that's people need to hear that, because so much of the world says you can't do it or you're not qualified, and that's bullshit. You can do it. So awesome, Sylvester. Thanks again. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, and I look forward to hearing from you from your future success.
Yeah, I have some fitness goals to share. I watch your fitness videos, and I'm definitely want to improve on fitness this year. So to lose some weight and get in shape. I don't know if you remember from my story, I was playing football and stuff in really top shape in high school, but want to get back in shape and improve in that area this year. So maybe I'll follow up with you on that.
Yeah. Definitely let me know. I definitely want to see your results, and I know you can do it because you got the grit to do it. So,
All right.
all right, man. Take care.
Thank you, you too.